Hi everyone, welcome back to The Grind. We had an amazing speaker join us this past weekend, Pastor Les Bowling.
Yeah.
He is just full of wisdom. The man is full of wisdom, and always such a great joy to learn from him.
Yeah.
And so he's touched on revival. And I was just thinking about revival and actually just certain things that should not be revived. Because revival is basically bringing back something that was once dead to life, right? Not starting something new. So then I went down this like thought process of like, okay, well, what are some things that just should have never been revived?
Vuvuzelas. Just from a purely sporting point of view, can you imagine going to every game and all you could hear is... It was fine for one tournament, but let's not kid ourselves.
Do we see it in any of the Premier Leagues?
No.
Do people get judged if they bring it?
Yes.
For me, I'll probably think like a lot of the TikTok stuff. Sorry, I mean like
The
there's,
TikTok generation are bad. We
yeah.
don't like some.
You want to
stuff.
cancel an entire generation?
No. Just certain things like the bucket challenges, those stuff. I just find it like.
Well, technically, to be fair, that wasn't even during the TikTok generation. That was during
Oh,
our time.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, bad. So those stuff.
Let's just hope the Gen Zs don't bring that back. Please
Yeah,
no. Please no.
yeah.
Please no. I was looking at fashion trends because fashion trends tend to do like a repeat, like kind of like they'd stay dead and revive. So I'm seeing like stuff that I wore in the 90s come back into play. So bell bottoms, baggy jeans. I'm like, yo, I don't need to be reminded of how badly I dressed in high school. So cargo pants.
So was it you don't want the trend because of the memory?
Yep,
Or
that-
it's just the fashion?
No, that the memory. Just cargo pants. No.
I love
pants.
cargo pants.
I've never seen you wear cargo pants. Should I buy you one for your birthday?
No, thank you.
It's a
coming
very
up in
dad
April.
thing to wear.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Cargo
And then
pants.
those long chains.
And then you just whip out your wallet.
And Nike trainers about this big.
Oh my goodness, dad sneakers.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
a thing. That is a thing.
We should get you those for your birthday.
Yeah, exactly. We should get you an entire dad outfit for your birthday.
Yeah.
With the, you know,
I'm not dad enough.
Is that the kind of fashion that needs to stay dead? Maybe.
maybe not in Rico's life. We can see that happen in Rico's life.
But what do you think? Like for example, now we're talking about like things that shouldn't be revived. But what are the things that you think you guys would think that it's a good thing to revive? Like things that should come back.
Okay, so I think, like, I was thinking about movies, right?
Yeah.
And I think actually them reviving Dune was a pretty good shout.
Shout?
Shout.
Oh, shout. Oh, Dune?
Yeah,
yeah,
because
that was good.
like the movies in the, was it 1980s?
Yeah.
Was at best a hot mess. But the remake was really good, so I think they revived that and they made it really good, in my opinion. One of my favorite movies, actually, I would say.
I think for me, one thing that they should revive, Yan Can Cook. I miss Yan Can Cook. If Yan can cook, so can you. I mean, like there are a lot of cooking shows, but it's just a good memory.
Jen can cook, so can you.
I'd like to see Doraemon get revived.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Doraemon.
Taught me so many life lessons as a child.
Such as.
The main character is the boy. No matter how bad your life gets, there's always a solution.
Oh, that's true.
Here is one.
You just
singular
need a
solution.
robotic cat from the future.
Right. All right. So we should get back on track and talk about what the speaker talked about revival. So actually, we talked about all these different things about what should be revived, what shouldn't be revived, but what historically constitutes as a revival?
Okay, well, revival is, I mean, if we look up the definition of what it is increased spiritual interest or renewal in the life of a church, in its congregation or in society with like a larger effect than just within the church, like within society or a country. And then more recently, and Les Bowling talked about it, the Asbury revival just started with students, went on for days and days. So, and it feels like it's something that just starts spontaneously, especially in the case of Asbury. They just kept praying and they kept worshiping, and then it just spread from there. So it's something that basically attracts people to the church and has an effect on its local community or even wider, I guess.
Because I was,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I was going to say, like, I was looking up, like, the whole Asbury thing and how it all started. And it just started with basically a simple chapel service that happens,
Yeah.
like, twice a month.
And I think that's what Bowling also mentioned, that the preaching was not like a very significant thing, but
Yeah.
then it just triggered something as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. And also, I mean, like, now that you mentioned about it being historically, I feel like in order for a revival to be something historical, it's a chain reaction that we still feel today. So like what happened with Asbury, and I was just reminded also with one of the articles I was reading about regarding the Pyongyang revival. They also sort of heard of what happened with the Welsh revival, and they wanted that to happen in their area. I mean, but of course, even though they knew what happened, I feel like there's it also the desire contributes to this sort of revival situation as well. And I think for them, one of the key things that happened to them, it's a continuous chain reaction where the Protestant, the amount of people just grew. So,
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just phenomenal that it all started with just something simple and effects. And I think like you mentioned, right, it's supposed to have lasting effects. And I think one thing from one of the revivals, I forget, it was the Second Awakening or something, where it had an effect on creating the abolitionist. That's it.
There you go.
Abolitionist movement, where it led to, like, you know, people recognizing that men are created equal in God's eyes, and so therefore that led to this ending of slavery.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, that historically revival has a part to play in great changes that happens.
Yeah, so I want to ask you guys, when you think of revival, right, what comes to mind for you?
Ooh, based on my experience, I mean, like from what I've seen before as well, a lot of the revivals that I've seen were planned actually. Like the one that I know, like there are certain revival events that happen in the Philippines where it has been scheduled. Like people are like saying, okay, so this is gonna be at a big event, and we're gonna be doing this thing at a big stadium. So I mean, in terms of like the revival part of it, that's what I remember in that particular context. So yeah.
It's always a big deal.
Yeah. And usually it happens like a yearly thing too. Like every year there's a specific thing that's gonna happen. It's gonna be like a revival. And I also remember that during revival there are certain people who would kind of like give prophetic messages and visions of what will happen in the near future and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think of like big events, maybe not organized, but definitely where everyone's like, Jesus, and, you know, hands raised and everything, and so, you know, when I think about, like, you know, events that I've been at that maybe feels like that, it would be Passion Generation, and so I would say that is like a revival moment for me, because it was like a gathering of all the youth who were in Hong Kong, and I believe that was like early 2000s, and we were in Chater Garden.
It was like 2004,
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah, so basically it's like you're a, you know, teenager, and yeah, you're just in the streets worshiping. It's big.
Yeah.
And I just remember being impacted by that. So yeah, but how about you guys? For you, experiences with revival moments?
revival moments.
Honestly, like the same as you, because I was there at those things, and then there was maybe like within the same year there was one in TST in Kowloon Park, and then it feels like at that time, like over a period of a few years, Hong Kong just had a lot of big city-wide church events. Like I remember even going to ones at Hong Kong Stadium.
Was it the Global Day of Prayer?
Well, there was Global Day of Prayer as well, but there was another one I can't remember. It might have been for Christmas. And the thing is, I have been on both sides of these events as like an attendee, and then like being involved in worship and stuff. And when you're involved on the other side, there does seem to be an extra, I don't want to call it pressure, but expectation or a sense of purpose, like you're actually doing something
Right.
with a
big.
with lasting consequences.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, not to pour water on it, but like I don't know now looking back on it, like how significant it's been. Maybe in a couple of years time or 10 years time I'll see differently. But yeah, at that time it just seems like a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
I would say that it was during that time that I was first exposed to prophecy, the prophecy in my life, and I still remember the words that were spoken to this day, because it wasn't specifically at the event, but the speakers involved, like Jason Ma, during that time, and his sister. I remember them coming to our youth group, so that Jason Ma spoke to the boys, and his sister spoke to the girls, and I just remember receiving significant prophetic words during that time, which still has left an impact on me. So, yeah.
Okay. So I think now, like, we're actually discussing more about like what we've experienced and what we think about revival.
Yeah.
But for you guys, what do you think is sort of like the revival stereotypes that either you've experienced or you've heard, or and what is it compared to what is the reality of an actual revival? What do you guys think?
Well, like hands raised, crying out to Jesus on the floor. I think that's the stereotype. That's like just this really massive, like, you know, big thing that's again going on. I think for some reason that's what it is. And I think we oftentimes look at the outside and focus on like the effects rather than the heart of it. So for us, I think that's a stereotype. It's like it has to be big, it has to be, you know, loud.
Yeah.
But really, it's the heart of it, because revival really is starts when you seek after God.
Yeah.
It starts in time of like prayer, fasting, worship. That's how revival begins. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I cast my memory back to, when Passion Generation, all those things were going on, they kept using a phrase like, we are a nameless, faceless generation.
Yeah.
Like everyone is all together, right? But then I kind of think that negates the fact that this nameless, faceless generation is made up of individuals with their own relationships with God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that is what we think of when we look at the outside of it. It's just like a clump of people doing the same thing. When really, I feel like it should be many, many individuals with their own relationships with God, with their own pursuit of faith, walking in the same direction. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you guys are saying sort of like, in terms of reality, one thing that we need to be reminded of as well is that revival starts with us personally first, with our own intention. What is our intention in our hearts as well?
Yeah.
And that will sort of replicate and
go
flow
forth.
through.
And another thing was that it was emphasized that there should be no more plateaus. Everything from this point on should just go up and up and up and up.
As in the stereotype.
Yeah. Like your relationship with God, the churches in Hong Kong, everything will just go up and up and up. That's like the expectation that they set.
Yeah.
When I think when you get back to real life,
it gives you a lot of pressure.
It gives you a lot of pressure to just like continue pursuing that moment or that emotion, the feeling that you had at that meeting or whatever, and it doesn't let you actually see how that fits in with real life.
And like what we were talking about previously as well, when we were discussing about this, we were talking about like revival doesn't happen like every day, right? Like the revival happens in a certain period, and then there will be a chain reaction, but that chain reaction doesn't necessarily mean like a continuous revival happening. So like through the historical backgrounds that we were reading, until now we're still experiencing that change. So yeah, I was just reminded of that.
Yeah, and sometimes with like Asbury, I was just thinking, and like again, not discounting anyone, because I'm sure there are people who went there like genuinely really want to pursue God and like, okay, this is what's happening. We want to receive, because they've seen the effects of it, and so therefore it draws them in. And the whole idea of revival is that it's supposed to change your life, right? So you're not supposed to go there like, you know, receive and then that's it, leave, right? You're supposed to also be a channel of, you know, the grace that you receive there to the people around you. But I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't be surprised if people just went there for the hype. Yeah, look at me, Asbury, what's up? And I think there's been some, like, stuff people talking about, like, is the Gen Zs for real? Do they really know what revival is? So that's why they're keeping an eye on it. But I think the fact that it's been going on for so long, constitutes, there's something going on there.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe there's some people that went there for the hype, and that's fine. Sure, that's on that's on them. But then there's some people who genuinely were changed. There are people who actually came to Jesus.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I guess with that being said, is like, what is the product of revival for you personally?
I think the product for me, there would be a change of heart. Like after that revival, it may be like something that will drastically change, or it changes you over time. I think that's what I think. But of course that change will be something that will be kept in you, and like kept meaning like it will be something that is in you on a regular basis already. And then of course through this one, I pray that it will sort of reflect towards the people that you're around, and will have the same passion. So like for example, I'm praying also like at some point there will be a revival in our families as well for those who have not experienced God yet. And just even through this grind, because I've been sharing this as well to some of our family members, and I pray that they would seek God in their own way, and they would personally search for Him as well. So.
I think it's for me that the product of revival is like a revelation of who God is. Because in the moment when you're there, it's sort of like that simple concept, when two or more are gathered in His name, there He is. And so I feel like you get to learn a lot more about who God is, and therefore you have more to chase after the fact. So for me, it's that I just learning more about who God is. Yeah.
Like with again, with revival, it starts with desiring God, hungering for Him. And I'm reading this book by John Piper called Hunger for God, and it's talking about fasting. And oftentimes people think like fasting is just like, okay, abstain from eating and that's it. But you're fasting because you have tasted how good God is and you hunger for Him. And so therefore you choose to put yourself in a position where you can receive more from Him. And so with revival, it's like, we don't want to chase revival. We don't want to chase an event. We want to chase God. We want to hunger for Him. And so I think at the end of the day, it's what's the motivation behind revival. And like I said at the beginning of this thing, is that revival, you can't revive something that wasn't there. You revive something that was once dead. And so I was reading up about revival, and revival is the product of all Christians praying and seeking the Holy Spirit's presence. So it could very well much happen when we three just right here in this place start praying, start fasting, start worshiping. Again, you never know, right? The genuine desire is not like, all right, at 1 p.m. we are going to have some revival. Like that's not, it's not like a dish that you order, but it can just happen. God can just come. It's not planned. And I think, like you mentioned about the effects, seeing family come to Jesus, or just a spark again. Like I like what Charles Spurgeon said. He said, "Revival is to live again, to receive again the life which has almost expired, to rekindle into a flame the vital spark which was nearly extinguished."
Oh wow!
So
That's good.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, if I were to wrap up what revival is, it's not chasing an event; it's chasing God.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. I think that's all the time that we have for today. And that I just pray that, if you're seeking God, that God will come and revive what was once alive within you, the love for Him, the hunger for Him, and that, who knows, like the amazing things that God can do in your life. So take care. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.